I stood in the middle of my niece's living room, watching her pack designer handbags into boxes, and I felt nothing but relief. At 64 years old, I'd finally learned that sometimes the greatest act of love is knowing when to stop giving. But let me back up to 3 weeks ago, when I was standing in a very different place, the checkout line at Costco, my cart full of the bulk groceries I'd been buying for years. Not for myself, mind you. I live alone in a small apartment and don't need 50 rolls of paper towels. No, these were for my niece Melissa and her husband Brad. I'm Hazel Morrison, and for the past 8 years, I'd been what you might call a walking checkbook for my brother's daughter and her husband. It started innocently enough, the way these things always do. Melissa had just gotten married, and they were struggling to find a place to live in our expensive corner of suburban Seattle. Housing prices here are insane. A decent 2-bedroom apartment runs about $2,500 a month, and that's if you're lucky. I owned a small house in a nice neighborhood, nothing fancy, just a 3-bedroom ranch I'd bought 20 years ago with my late husband before he passed. After he died, I moved into a smaller apartment. The house felt too empty, too full of memories. I couldn't bring myself to sell it, though. It had been our dream home. So when Melissa came to me, pregnant with her first child and desperate, I offered to let them rent it. "Just pay what you can afford," I told her. "We're family." That was my first mistake. They moved in paying $800 a month, less than a third of what the mortgage cost me. I told myself it was temporary. Young couples struggle at first, right? Melissa worked as a dental hygienist, making about $48,000 a year. Brad was a junior accountant, pulling in around $55,000. Combined, they made over $100,000 annually. Not rich, but comfortable. Except they didn't live like people making $100,000. They lived like people making $300,000. The designer diaper bag. The brand new SUV, with a $450 monthly payment. The organic meal delivery service. The weekend trips to wine country. I watched it all from a distance, saying nothing, because who was I to judge? I was just happy to help. Then came year 2. Aunt Hazel, Melissa called me, voice stressed. "Brad's student loans are killing us. Would it be possible to lower the rent for a few months?" The rent went down to $500. Then $400. By year 3, they weren't paying rent at all. "Just until we get back on our feet," Brad promised. "We're working on a budget." I was paying the full mortgage, $1,800 a month, plus property taxes, insurance, and maintenance. My teacher's pension was $2,200 a month. Social Security gave me another $1,800. I was spending nearly half my income keeping them housed. I started skipping my book club because there was a $15 monthly fee I could no longer afford. I stopped getting my hair done professionally and learned to trim it myself in the bathroom mirror. I wore the same 3 outfits on rotation. My car, a 2008 Honda with 190,000 miles on it, desperately needed new tires, but I kept putting it off. Meanwhile, I'd see Melissa's Instagram posts number blessed photos from their weekend getaway to the San Juan Islands, Brad's new golf clubs, their kitchen renovation that I'd somehow agreed to help fund since it's your house, and it increases the value. That renovation cost me $12,000. They picked out granite countertops and stainless steel appliances. I ate ramen noodles for 6 months. Year 4 brought a second baby. Year 5 a third. "We need to convert the garage into a playroom," Melissa announced. Not asked. Announced. Another $8,000 I didn't have. I took out a small loan against my retirement account. My sister, Diane, Melissa's mother, knew what was happening. We'd have coffee every few weeks, and she'd say things like, "You're so generous, Hazel. I wish I could help them like you do." But she never offered a dime. She and her husband owned a vacation home in Palm Springs, drove matching luxury sedans, and took cruises twice a year. But somehow, helping her own daughter financially was my job. The breaking point came 3 weeks ago on a sunny Saturday afternoon. Melissa was having one of her famous block parties. She threw them twice a year, inviting all the neighbors to show off. To build community. There'd be a rented bounce house for the kids, catered food, a bartender mixing craft cocktails. These parties cost at least $2,000 each. I wasn't invited to this one. I usually wasn't. "It's just a neighborhood thing, Aunt Hazel," Melissa had explained once. "You'd be bored." But I needed to drop off some paperwork, the homeowner's insurance renewal that I'd had to pay because, of course, the house was still in my name. I pulled up to the curb in my sad little Honda, watching people mingle on what used to be my front lawn. I walked up the driveway, paperwork in hand, and heard laughter coming from the open kitchen window. Melissa's voice carried clearly in the afternoon air. "God, you should see her apartment," she was saying. "It's so depressing. Like, one bedroom, ugly carpet. The whole place smells like old lady. I can't believe she chose to live like that." A woman's voice I didn't recognize. "Didn't you say she used to own this house?" Brad's voice, slightly slurred already on his third craft beer, probably. "Yeah, and she basically gave it to us. Between you and me, I think she feels guilty that she never had kids of her own, so she's trying to make up for it by funding ours. It's kind of pathetic, honestly." Melissa laughed. That laugh I'd known since she was a little girl, but now it sounded cruel. "The best part? She thinks we're struggling. Meanwhile, we just booked that trip to Hawaii. We told her we're house-sitting for a friend." Multiple people laughed. A man's voice. "So she pays your mortgage?" "Melissa, she is the mortgage. The house is in her name. We basically live here rent-free while she's crammed into some depressing little apartment eating cat food or whatever old people eat. But hey, she's happy to help family." Her words. More laughter. "Brad, honestly, it's her own fault for being such a pushover. If someone's dumb enough to let you take advantage of them, why wouldn't you? It's not like she's going to do anything about it. She's too scared we'll stop letting her see the kids." My hands were shaking. The insurance paperwork slipped from my fingers and scattered across the driveway. I didn't knock on the door. I didn't interrupt their party. I got back in my car, drove to my depressing little apartment with its ugly carpet, and sat in the dark for 3 hours. Then I called my lawyer. Monday morning at 9 a.m., I was in Robert Chen's office. Robert had handled my husband's estate and had been gently suggesting for years that I reconsider my arrangement with Melissa. "I want to sell the house," I told him. He looked surprised. "You're finally kicking them out?" "No, I'm selling it. With them in it." Robert leaned back in his chair. "Hazel, you own the house outright. You have every legal right to sell it. But I need to ask, are you sure? This is going to cause a family nuclear war. I've spent 8 years funding their lifestyle, while I've eaten rice and beans. I've got $43,000 in debt between that renovation and various emergencies they've had. My retirement savings are depleted. I'm 64 years old, Robert. How many good years do I have left? And I'm spending them making sure my niece can have granite countertops." He nodded slowly. "What's your timeline?" "As fast as legally possible." Washington state law was on my side. Since they had no lease agreement, just their word that they'd pay what they could, and hadn't paid actual rent in over 5 years, they were considered month-to-month tenants. I could give them 30 days' notice to vacate. But I didn't want the house anymore. It wasn't my dream home now, it was a monument to my stupidity. Robert suggested we sell it as is with tenants, but I had a better idea. "List it on the market. When you get an offer, give them 20 days to vacate, or the sale won't go through." "That's aggressive, Hazel." "They've been aggressive with my bank account for 8 years. Wednesday, the for sale sign went up on the lawn. I wasn't there to see it, but Melissa called me within an hour. "Aunt Hazel, there's a sign on the lawn. Is this some kind of mistake?" I was at the grocery store, standing in the produce section. My voice was steady. "No mistake, sweetheart. I'm selling the house." Silence. Then, "You can't do that, we live here. And you've lived here rent-free for 5 years. The gravy train is pulling into the station." But where are we supposed to go? We have 3 kids. "Melissa, you and Brad make over $100,000 a year. You can afford to rent a place. Plenty of families do." Her voice got shrill. "We can't afford anything in this neighborhood. Do you know what rent costs?" "Yes," I said calmly, picking up a bag of apples, the regular ones, not organic, because that's what I could afford. "I do know. I've been paying your rent for 8 years while you've been going to Hawaii." "How did you—" She stopped. "Were you spying on us?" "I came by to drop off your insurance paperwork. The window was open. I heard everything you said about me at your party. The depressing apartment, the cat food, how pathetic I am for funding your lifestyle." Another long silence. "Aunt Hazel, I didn't mean—" "You did mean it. And you were right about one thing. I was a pushover. But I'm done now. You can't do this. I already did. The house is listed. I have a cash offer coming in tomorrow. You have 20 days to find somewhere else to live. I hung up before she could respond. The next call came 10 minutes later. Diane. My sister. Hazel Marie Morrison, what the hell do you think you're doing? I hadn't heard my full name from my sister since we were teenagers. Hello to you too, Diane. Don't you hello me. Melissa is hysterical. She says you're throwing them out on the street. I'm selling my house. There's a difference. She has 3 babies, Hazel. 3 little children. How could you do this to family? I felt remarkably calm. 8 years of resentment had crystallized into pure clarity. Diane, do you know how much money I've given Melissa in the past 8 years? You offered to help. Nobody forced you. $208,000. That's the mortgage, insurance, taxes, and the renovations I funded. Plus another $23,000 in various emergencies and loans I was promised would be paid back. $231,000 total. I'm 64 years old, and I have $67,000 in savings left. That's it. That's what I have for the rest of my life. Silence. Now, I continued, you and Tom have a vacation home in Palm Springs. You take 2 cruises a year, you drive luxury cars, you clearly have money. So here's my question. If you're so concerned about Melissa and those 3 little children, why don't you help them? That's different. How is it different? We have our own expenses. We worked hard for our retirement. And I didn't? I was a teacher for 37 years, Diane. I worked hard too, but I'm the one who's been eating ramen so your daughter can have organic meal delivery. You're being cruel. No, I'm being done. There's a difference. She hung up on me. The next 2 weeks were a war. Melissa called daily, alternating between tears and rage. Brad left voicemails calling me a selfish old woman. Diane organized a family intervention at my apartment. Her husband Tom, and 2 of our cousins where they all sat in my living room and told me I was tearing the family apart. You're making a mistake, Tom said. He'd never liked me much. Family is everything. Family is not a free ATM, I replied. You'll regret this when you're old and need help, Diane warned. Melissa won't forget this. I'm already old, and I already need help. I've needed help for 8 years. None of you offered. They left angry. The house sold in 11 days. Cash offer above asking price. The new owners wanted to move in quickly. They had kids starting school in the area. Day 18. Melissa called again. This time her voice was different, desperate. Aunt Hazel, please. We've been looking, but we can't find anything we can afford in this area, not with 3 bedrooms. The schools are better here, and, Melissa, there are 3-bedroom rentals in Everett for $1,800 a month. Everett? That's 40 minutes away. All our friends are here. The kids' school? Private school that you can't afford anyway. We can't just uproot our entire lives. You're not uprooting your lives. You're starting to live within your means. I hate you, she whispered. I know, I said, and hung up. Moving day was a Saturday. I drove by, I couldn't help myself, and watched the moving truck in the driveway. Neighbors stood in clusters, watching. The family that threw the fabulous parties was leaving, and the gossip was flying. I could see Melissa's face, red and blotchy from crying, as she carried boxes. Brad saw my car and stalked over. I rolled down my window. Happy now? He snarled. You've destroyed 3 kids' lives because you're a bitter old woman with nothing better to do. I looked at him evenly. Brad, you're a CPA. You make $55,000 a year. Melissa makes $48,000. Together, that's $103,000 annually. The median rent for a 3-bedroom in King County is about $2,000 a month. That's $24,000 a year, less than a quarter of your income. A normal person would have no problem affording that. Do you know why you can't afford it? He glared at me. Because you financed a $40,000 SUV instead of buying a used car. Because you spend $400 a month on meal kits instead of cooking. Because you take vacations you can't afford and throw parties to impress people who don't care. You're not poor, Brad. You're financially irresponsible. And I'm not going to fund your irresponsibility anymore. You're not even giving us any of the money from the sale. Why would I? It's my house. I'm using that money to pay off the debt I accumulated helping you and to rebuild my retirement. You've had 8 years of free housing. That's more than $170,000 in value. Consider it your inheritance from me. You got it early." I rolled up my window and drove away. The first month was hard, I won't lie. Diane stopped speaking to me entirely. Half the family took Melissa's side. I was uninvited from Thanksgiving. I had nightmares about the kids, sweet little Aiden, Maya, and baby Connor, suffering because of my decision. But something else happened too. I paid off my debts. All of them. The renovation loan, the credit cards I'd maxed out for their emergencies. Gone. For the first time in 8 years, I looked at my bank balance and didn't feel sick. I got my hair done professionally. I bought myself new clothes, nothing fancy, just things that fit and didn't have holes. I replaced the tires on my car and got the oil changed. I joined a pottery class at the community center. Made friends. Real friends who didn't want anything from me except my company. 3 months after they moved out, I got a letter. Handwritten, from Melissa. "Dear Aunt Hazel, I don't know if you'll read this, but I need to write it. We're living in Everett now. It's a small apartment, and the kids share a bedroom. Brad sold his SUV and bought a used sedan. We canceled the meal service and started cooking at home. I'm working 4 extra shifts a month to pay down our credit cards. It's been hell. But something happened last week. Brad and I sat down and did a real budget for the first time in our marriage. We looked at where every penny was going, and we realized something awful. You were right. We were living beyond our means. Way beyond. We'd convinced ourselves we deserved nice things because we worked hard. But we never looked at what those things actually cost, not just in money, but in stress and debt and our dependency on you. I'm not writing to ask for anything. I know that bridge is burned, and I know it's my fault. But I need you to know, I'm ashamed. Not just of what you overheard at the party, but of the whole thing. 8 years of taking and never giving back. 8 years of not even seeing what we were doing to you. Mom told me about your savings. Aunt Hazel, I didn't know. I swear I didn't know we'd taken that much. I thought you were fine. I thought you wanted to help. We're paying you back. I don't care if it takes 20 years. I've set up an automatic transfer. $100 a month goes into an account for you. It's not much, but it's a start. Brad agreed immediately when I suggested it. I think he's ashamed too, though he won't say it. The kids ask about you. They miss you. I miss you. I know I don't have the right to ask, but if you're ever willing to talk, I'd like that. Love, Melissa. P.S. We've been taking the kids to the free library programs instead of expensive activities. Yesterday, Maya checked out a book about a girl who learns to be grateful for what she has. She said it reminded her of a story you might tell. I cried in the car all the way home. I read that letter 3 times. The next Saturday, I drove to Everett. Their apartment was in an older complex, nothing fancy, but clean and well-maintained. I knocked on the door. Melissa answered. Her eyes widened. "Aunt Hazel, I got your letter." She started crying immediately. "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." I hugged her. She felt smaller somehow, less sure of herself. "I know you are." The kids came running. Aiden grabbed my legs. Maya jumped up and down, and baby Connor, not so much a baby anymore, held up his arms to be picked up. Brad came out of the kitchen, dish towel in hand. He looked different too. Humbler. "Hazel, I didn't expect." "I didn't come to stay," I said. "I just came to say that I appreciate the letter, and to tell you something important." They waited. What I did wasn't about punishing you. It was about teaching you, and about saving myself from financial ruin. But mostly, it was about giving you the chance to learn what you're made of. To learn that you're capable of standing on your own. Melissa wiped her eyes. "It's been really hard." "I know. But look at you. You're doing it. You're working extra shifts. Brad sold the SUV. You're cooking at home. You're building a life you can actually afford." "That's not nothing, Melissa. That's everything." "We feel like failures," Brad admitted quietly. "You're not failures. You made mistakes. Now you're fixing them. That's what grown-ups do." I stayed for an hour. The apartment was small but cozy. They'd made it work. Maya showed me her library book. Aiden told me about his new school. Connor sat in my lap and played with my necklace. When I left, Melissa walked me to my car. "Are we okay?" she asked. "We're getting there," I said. "But Melissa, I need you to understand something. I love you. I love those kids. But I can't go back to how things were." "I don't want to go back," she said firmly. "I want to go forward. To a place where we're equals. Where I'm not taking from you, and you're not sacrificing yourself for us. I'd like that." She hugged me again. "Thank you for not giving up on us, even when we deserved it." That was 8 months ago. They're still paying me back, $100 a month. I've put it in a college fund for the kids. They don't know that yet. Brad got a promotion. Melissa's talking about going back to school to become a dental hygienist instructor, which pays better. Last month, they invited me to Maya's birthday party. Not at a fancy venue, just in their apartment complex's community room. They decorated themselves, made a cake from scratch, and had pizza. The kids were happy. The adults were happy. Nobody was in debt. Diane still isn't speaking to me, but I've made my peace with that. Some people will never understand that enabling someone isn't the same as helping them. Me? I'm doing well. I took a ceramics class and discovered I'm actually pretty good at it. I've been selling pieces at a local craft fair. Nothing that'll make me rich, but it's mine, something I created. Last week, I booked a trip. Not a cruise to Alaska or a tour of Europe, just a week in a little cabin in the San Juan Islands. I'm going alone, and I'm going to read books and make pottery and eat whatever I want without checking my bank balance first. At 64 years old, I finally learned the difference between generosity and self-destruction, between loving someone and losing yourself. The funny thing, Melissa and I are closer now than we've been in years. Real close, not the fake close where I was just her ATM. She calls to chat, not to ask for money. She shares her struggles and her successes. She asks my advice and actually listens. 2 weeks ago, she sent me a photo. It was Brad and her standing in front of their local bank with huge smiles. The caption read, "We just paid off our credit cards. All of them. $42,000 in debt gone. It took us 8 months of working our asses off, but we did it. Thank you for giving us the kick in the pants we needed." I cried when I saw that photo. Happy tears. Sometimes the greatest gift you can give someone is the chance to stand on their own 2 feet, even if they hate you for it at first. Even if it tears apart what you thought your relationship was. Because what we have now, this honest, equal, respectful relationship, is so much better than what we had before. I'm not their ATM anymore. I'm not their savior. I'm just Aunt Hazel. And that's more than enough.